Oh, what's up guys? I am going to do my best to keep this video nice and brief. So, I love Alliance War, and the game doesn't have any like ELO system for Alliance War to show a community member that might be curious in game who the best war alliance in the world is. There is the war rating leaderboard, of course, but that has no context and lacks a lot of factors. And one thing I think the community wants, at least the community has asked me, or people from the community have asked me before, and I think one of the things that they would like is a kind of collection of, or like a list of the best alliances in the world. Now, to make a list like that, I would want to use some kind of system that could produce unbiased, results, and that could inform kind of who the most competitive war alliances in the world are. So I created this system. It's called War Alliance Rank, or WAR, and I just wanted to kind of break it down for you, and then I'll also talk about how I got this information and all that stuff. And yeah, we're just gonna go through the categories. All right, so I'm gonna go through the categories for you. Then I'm going to talk about how each category is scored, and then how the total war points are calculated, and all that jazz. So there are 5 scoring categories. One is simply war rating, so the leaderboard over here. One is efficiency. It's like an efficiency category, basically how many times you've died throughout the season as a war alliance. One is margin of victory. So the way we calculate that is by death differential. And then obviously you have record, just your raw wins and losses. And then probably the biggest component and the thing that is most lacking from the war rating leaderboard is a strength of schedule category that basically awards you points for the level of competition that you're subjected to throughout a war season. Because we know that there are a lot of alliances that squeak into Masters, or even have deep runs into Masters after starting in Tier 2. Even last season, LVT started in Tier 3, and we got all the way up to Tier 1, and we were just a couple spots out of Masters. And primarily the reason for that is because we were able to win all of our wars last season, because the competition, no disrespect to our opponents from last season, was just significantly lower. So we were able to rack up wins, and that was able to propel us higher and higher up the war rating leaderboard, which wasn't really a true indication of our strength as an alliance. So here's how scoring works for each category, and this system is very simple. It is very simple. I spent about 5 minutes thinking of how I was going to do it, and then I was just like, let's just go with it. And it might see some evolutions in the future, who knows, but I think it's turned out pretty functional. So the first thing is we take raw values for each of these categories. Now, these don't affect the score specifically, but you take the raw values. The only public raw value for anything on this sheet is the war rating leaderboard in-game. So before the first war, I collected all of the war ratings for all of the top 25 alliances. SGA was not in the top 25 in war rating, so they didn't, factor in here. And then this alliance was, and we'll get to why they're not in the top 25 total. But anyway, so you have that, and then you have your rank, your category rank, relative to the other groups, regardless of the differential. It's just your rank. So the number 1 war rating alliance in the world right now, or before War 1, was TCN. So they were 1. And then you have 2, and then, over here, like you guys will see, obviously, there are a lot of alliances that have exactly the same raw values in some of these categories, like here, and they will get the same rank. And then the rank system, the scoring system, is based on your category rank war to war. So the highest value that you can get for rank 1 is 1 full point. And then from 1 full point, each rank down loses 5% of the value relative to the previous rank. All right, so if we go over here to the scoring scale, 1, you get 1 full point. Minus 5% is 95, right? 100 minus 5 is 95. So then for the third rank, we would take 95% of 0.95. That produces this. And then you can see that as we scale down here, some of the gaps start to close a little bit, so that down here at the bottom, for these last 3 spots, the raw differential is just 1 or 2 decimal points off, but that's because 5% of a smaller number is going to produce a smaller difference. So anyway, that's the scoring. It's very simple. That's it. Now, there are a couple caveats for each of these systems. The leaderboard is only going to produce points war to war for the top 25 war rating leaderboard alliances. All right, and these are going to be, the way that they're going to be calculated on the sheet is cumulative. So at some point, if GT40 surpasses TCN on the war rating leaderboard, then their total cumulative season war rating, war to war, will be calculated over here, and their rank could shuffle. And once their rank shuffles, then this raw value will change. So it will change, war to war based on the raw values. And then for season deaths, we're only going to give any points to the top 20 in season deaths. And the reason that we're doing that is because some of the top 25 alliances at the start of this war, which again, before the season's results, the only factor was the raw war rating leaderboard. So that's what we took. That's how we determined, or that's how I determined the top 25 war alliances as a springboard, knowing that there would be more context and things would start to flesh out a lot more nicely the deeper into the season we get. All right, and then some of these alliances you can see died over 20 times. Right? You're not going to get points for dying over 20 times. So, this alliance down here, they died 69 times. You're not going to get any points for that just because you're a top 25 alliance. So you have to place in the top 20 in terms of your season deaths. And then margin of victory, very, very simple. You just take, your deaths, or your kills minus your deaths. GT40 only died 1 time, and they had a margin of victory of 9, or their death differential was positive 9. And, because of the relative strength of some of these opponents, GT40 played a pretty strong opponent and destroyed them by 9, but their death differential rank was only 8. So that's going to produce a smaller, total point or whatever that contributes to the actual total score. But again, throughout the season, this will even itself out as alliances match, other opponents of various strength and stuff like that. So this is all cumulative, and you're only going to get points for a positive margin of victory. Obviously, we're not going to score points for an alliance that has a negative 30 margin of victory, or a margin of defeat that's anything. So that's one thing. And then the alliance with the best record, or the alliances with the best record, are going to get that full point. And then as the season goes along and alliances are going to lose, then this scale will start to look like a scale instead of just all being the same number. All right, and then the last category is strength of schedule, and this one seems a little complicated, but it's also very simple. Basically, at the start of a war, or basically whatever an alliance's total war points were going into a war, is going to be added to their opponent's strength of schedule raw value here. All right, and then throughout the season, right, this number here will just keep getting bigger and bigger as you tally together all of the opponent's starting war points each match, and it will flesh out the rank, and then that will produce this final score, category score, indicating who had the toughest the toughest strength of schedule throughout the season. So, for example, PYCB, they faced TCN. So TCN again has the highest war rating in the game, and so they got the full 1 point for having the hardest strength of schedule so far, and in a like GT40, for example, faced a strong opponent here. They had the fourth hardest matchup out of all the top 25, and they won. So they get points from the win. They get points for the differential. They retain their points for war rating leaderboard, and then they have this nice points for this category. And if they were to match TCN next war, then they would get a bigger. This would just keep going up. It would be the sum of all of their opponents, basically war value heading into each war, and throughout the season it's going to flesh itself out, and it'll produce a number over here that is essentially going to stay within this range of basically a 0 to about a 12. And that's it. And that's how we're going to determine, or that's how this system is going to determine who it believes or thinks or calculates is the strongest war alliance in the world. And I thought that for some people, that watch YouTube videos that maybe are at lower tiers, and you see like a YouTuber talking about, oh, we matched a New Nation, or oh, we matched GT40, and these guys are really good. This can kind of give you an idea of how good they are in an unbiased way. Now, like any kind of algorithm or system or spreadsheet, it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be context missing because these are raw numbers. But I think it's a good indicator at least. And I'm going to keep this updated war to war. I'll have a link in the description below. So that you guys can view this sheet whenever you want to. War to war, you can check in and see what the updates look like. But this is essentially like a power rankings like you would see on like ESPN for sports teams. Like who's the best NBA team right now? It's the Milwaukee Bucks, or whatever the case is. You can kind of go to this, and it'll work that way. And maybe if I have time in the future, and if people seem interested in this, maybe I'll start making graphics or something like that. Like they do for sports teams, just to kind of make it a little bit more engaging, because again, the community has kind of been frozen out about who the best war alliances are. We essentially just have the war rating leaderboard that we can look to, and then higher alliances that are more familiar with some of the more competitive alliances have a good idea of which alliances are the strongest, and then the rest is just when a YouTuber posts a war video and talks about the opponent, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, he says that these guys are good. They've won a few seasons, so they must be pretty good. Now you can kind of see, oh, okay, GT40, they're the best war alliance in the world right now. Now, there is another category that I currently am not able to factor into the total system because I don't have the data, but I will show it to you. And it is a category I call shithead deductions. All right, so if you really want a true evaluation of who the best war alliances are, then really what you want is an evaluation of who the best war alliances are that don't try to manipulate things for their benefit. So there is a very simple system set up here where if I was able to gather information for alliances that have been docked in the last 5 seasons and how many times, then let's just say we're going to go with this alliance here, just hypothetically, if this alliance had been docked 2 times in the last 5 seasons, then they would lose a 30% value per dock over the last 5 seasons. That would be their penalty, and that would drop them there. So, you could look at this sheet if we had hard data on this type of stuff, and you could be like, oh, okay, well, this alliance actually they're not actually the second best alliance in the world if they were playing cleanly. Really, they're maybe the 5th best alliance in the world. All right, and then you have, shelling alliances. Now, shelling is essentially impossible for Kabam to police at all. It's not technically against the rules. It's just clearly against the spirit of competition, if you will, which is something I think that Kabam references in forum posts. And essentially, both of these things are manipulations of the matchmaking system that give the manipulating alliance an outsized advantage against other alliances that are not trying to manipulate the system. So, for example, if you're shelling and you build your war rating up really, really highly, then the war matchmaking system is going to match you with other opponents or with opponents that have the most similar war rating to you, which means that you're going to match the hardest alliances, the hardest opponents, the more successful you are in alliance war. So some alliances will create a separate alliance, or they'll come into possession of a separate alliance called a shell, and every couple seasons they'll migrate all of their members to this shell alliance, and that the purpose of that is for the shell alliance to start a season with a lower war rating so that early in the season you get easier matchups, and that will give you a stronger chance to place highly in war because more of your 12 wars are being fought against less competitive alliances than what you guys should rightfully be facing based on your war rating. So anyway, let's just say that this alliance has shelled, and I don't believe that TCN has, to their credit, but the penalty for this is 15% penalty. So you have 15% penalty per shelling season in the last 5, 30% penalty per dock in the last 5, and this could probably go up a little bit. But again, I don't have data for these. I know that some people in the community will post dock lists at the end of the season. If you have access to those dock lists, and this is something that you're interested in, you actually want to see, how this stuff all shakes out throughout a season, then shoot that over to me via email or line. On the Line app, my ID is just LuddenTaters, same as the channel, and you can email me at luddentaters@gmail.com. So anyway, that's the system. Now I want to briefly kind of mention how I came into this information, because obviously the only thing that's publicly available for me to look at, if I didn't have help from other people, is the in-game war rating leaderboard. Now, some alliances don't like to share their scoreboard for competitive purposes, or because they think that there's some like crazy espionage going around in the MCOC community or something. I don't know, but and honestly, if you're one of those alliances, you don't want to share that, and you want to keep it a secret, that is totally fine. I don't care. To me, it's just information. Obviously, I'm freely sharing the fact that we died 13 times. We died 11 with 2 disconnects, but whatever. We died 13 times in our first war, which is not good, right? Not competitive. But again, to me, all of this is just information. And I think sharing information with the community that isn't going to give you an unfair advantage or gimp you unfairly, I don't see any reason not to. So anyway, but there is a community chat that basically has representatives from a lot of the top alliances in the world that freely share this information just for the information sharing purposes. That's basically it. It's not a collusion chat or anything like that. It is just basically an information sharing chat. And all it does is it gives alliances, I guess it gives alliances a better idea for, different opponents that they feel like they may have matched, something like that. But again, if all the alliances are sharing the information, then it's fair, and there's no way to manipulate the matchmaking process other than to shell or to outright cheat. So. Anyway, so there's a chat that has a bunch of people in it, and they freely share their scoreboard. If you are not in that chat and you want to contribute your alliance's scoreboard to a sheet like this, then you can send that over to my Gmail or online. The main person that gathers all this information and graciously shares it with me, his IGN is Tony Stark, so he's like, I guess, fucking playboy, billionaire, philanthropist, genius, whatever. But he shares this stuff with me, which I appreciate. And again, honestly, just everybody that's in that chat, I just appreciate the spirit of community in sharing information. So that is it, guys. Let me know what you think about this, but real quick, just again to kind of cap off, after one war of the season, these are your top 10 war alliances. I'll even, no, we'll just leave it. But we got GT40, we have TCN, DSVG, New Nation at number 4, JA at number 5, Matrix at number 6, Sweeta's Alliance, 1NG at number 7, Sweeta's Alliance at number 8, 4 Loki at number 9, and then SAS at number 10, despite being, starting the season 17th in war rating. So congrats to those alliances. Good job, War 1. All of them got wins. And yeah, I'm curious to see how this will shake out throughout the season, because I've always wanted something like this myself, just a one-stop shop to kind of get a bird's eye view of who the most competitive alliances are. So anyway, leave a like and a comment. Let me know in the comment section what you think of this. If you have any suggestions for category changes or category scoring or new categories or something like that. That is it. I appreciate you watching.